Yes, I believe we can get into a little bit of what happened last time on D&D. So, last time on D&D, the party made their way and just kind of, you began your rapid assault on Blabbity Bleebity Blue, on Laphasus, that's what it was called. And you made your way in and swiftly dealt with the guards on top of the tower, making your way down. You started fighting with the Emperor and Empress, whose names you never found out. And then you freed Fifi's mother, whose name you also never asked. Um, kind of just a yeah. So with that, you resurrected her and you managed to quell Fifi down. And dynamically, the Emperor made his way out as you killed the Empress, and you grabbed the key, hastily making your way back into the confines of the smaller rooms, narrowly escaping the exploding crystal as Aaliyah had not been paying attention and had been on the ground, and then Colton tripped over Alyssa, ending on the ground. Colton, in kind of just this power play kind of move, just grabbed the hood of Aaliyah and just flung her 40 straight feet. And yeah, so making your way through, he deactivated his transformation, quickly teleported to the other side of the room. You all narrowly escaped this huge blast that eviscerated and evaporated much of the water, as well as hundreds of Yuan-Ti eggs in that area. You then made your way to the kind of main hall area where that giant door was, and half of you decided to make your way up, and Colton and Shepard decided to raid the treasury, grabbing multiple items as well as multiple gold pieces. Filling the bag of holding, you all made your way to the top level, where you finally found your way outside after a little deliberation on whether you wanted to use ballistas or catapults in your escape maneuver. You decided that none of them were a good option, I guess, and to brute force it the old-fashioned way. You made your way out and you saw the beastmen that were using the rampart of one of the warehouses as a battering ram, whereas another 4 groups in different areas of the city were fighting Yuan-Ti guards. Many of them had access to their full beast forms and were able to kind of weigh the odds in their favor that way. And the fighting continued. With many of you all, Shepard kind of sticking on top and opting to provide long distance support. The rest of you, Fifi, clambering his way over, flying his way with the cloak to the northwest side of the battlefield and helping Omar out and his group. The Emperor was raining down winged, just a horde of thousands of winged snakes upon the area to deal with different people, different beastmen that were wreaking havoc. Whereas Aaliyah transformed into a bull and pounded her way into the warehouse of the east, which hadn't escaped yet. She was mounted by a giddy little dwarf and rammed into some Yuan-Ti before escape procedures happened. Kiyoshi, you were also kind of helping out that southeastern front, and Colton also helping out the north and southeastern fronts that needed a little more help. Eventually, the battering ram broke through. People began to escape. However, as some of the beastmen decided to turn their backs on the Yuan-Ti, they simply whipped out their bows and started shooting them in the backs, creating somewhat of a difficult situation, a kind of locked environment for the beastmen. Shepard had a surge of change of heart as he saw people being locked inside the non-burning houses. He gazed over to one of the burning houses where he saw a scaled leg bleeding, blood trickling down the side of the steps, and small footprints of Crimson kind of leading off, and seeing this small Yuan-Ti child clutching a leather-bound snake, stuffed snake. He kind of had that change of heart and issued everyone to try to get out as fast as possible. Some rounds elapsed before even the Emperor decided to boom his voice and allow the slaves to escape, seeing as how they had kind of this stalemate currently happening, and to reduce losses, you all began to make your way west outside the gates, and there was a touching reunion between Fifi and his mother. She managed to kind of let the party know and then let Fifi know of the fate of Fifi's father, much to his chagrin. Um, and with many people, a new issue emerged as many of them were starving and frail. Dr. Colton, Mr. Colton, decided to pull out his cooler and pull out multiple forms of vegetation as well as some meat. And he cooked alongside Shepard a culinary power duo. Um, as Shepard rang out with "Come get your fucking food," many people were able to be fed, and that would easily provide them sustenance for the night, as well as for hopefully their long trek home from Lophasis and the Viberys jungle that you are in. Come morning, you all split apart with some tales being slung to Fifi that night. He seemed to gaze over at Aaliyah, who suddenly had a realization that these tales were much more than just simple beginning, middle, and ends. They were compounding metaphors and very, very difficult stories that had been passed from word to mouth and altered throughout the generations. And with that, Fifi and Aaliyah didn't seem to gain much from their tales being told, but a little. And come morn, you all headed south and split from the pack, with Fifi and his mother embracing one last time. And in that moment, Aaliyah kind of looked at that and saw that if she could make this trek work between Fifi and his mother, that she may be able to do the same. And heading south, made your way to the some birds that seem to repeat what you say very loudly. Kiyoshi in recompense gave them the bird, and one of the birds seemed to kind of give a little two feathers down, with the middle one raising straight up right back at you. They also seemed to defecate on you as they passed by, and Mr. Colton, now kind of wandering past Aaliyah, finally raising a fuss to her ripped sweater, talked with Mr. Colton about it, and not even knowing that he did it, he simply mended it and cleaned it off for her, and kind of laying it back on. The surge of frustration seemed to have been quelled for now. Further south, you encountered a goblinoid amphitheater. A frustrated Aaliyah still kind of sitting on the steps as the party investigated. Having a heart-to-heart with Fifi, it seemed that maybe some things became apparent. And although still frustrated, the party wanted to find a way in, to which Aaliyah found the best possible bet by transforming into an earth elemental and smashing into the ceiling, creating an opening. Y'all found the Kitar of the musical goblin crew, Kiyoshi, having too much enticement to not snatch it up. The amphitheater closed and opened on the ceiling to reveal an echo chamber, essentially, that reverberated sounds. You all had a little fun with it before proceeding along your journey, making your way along the stream for a little while and then crossing it, finally reaching these large bones, many feet sunken into the earth, but still taller than your tallest by 3 times your tallest party member. These large bones that you can assume to be a dinosaur, but tales of how they came to be came from Fifi, and that they had originated from the volcanic eruption wiping out much of the population in this area, and then a long ice age kind of bearing them down before melting away, creating the jungle before you, as well as the obsidian plateaus that surround the jungle. creating somewhat of like a. At this point, you realize kind of this shelter of moisture that allowed the jungle to flourish, heading to that very very edge of the Death Canyon plateaus. You all set up camp for the night, finding a good bath along the way intermittently, and then finally that night you all had went to bed. And with that, Aaliyah found herself being kind of coming out to the hallway, and then find herself coming to the crossroads and talking to a Skan Viscaz, who gave her the package he had promised, although unknowing to Aaliyah at this point, searing back his mark upon her flesh, and kind of just telling her, reminding her on 2 occasions that no soul can escape a devil's deal. Aaliyah kind of waking up with a fright about, a couple hours come morning. And that is where we left off, with Aaliyah seeing the mark newly imprinted upon her flesh, and with the package on the dresser to her side near the door. And with that, that is where we start for the night. Kind of a